reshuffled once again. Now, if you saw my review of Men in Black and the end of that review, I talked about what I was going to review today, which is Gravity, a film that I haven't really seen since the year it came out, I guess, 2014. And I remember enjoying it, I remembered certain things about it, but I couldn't remember exactly why. So I checked it out again, so let's get cracking. So Gravity centers on a couple of astronauts. You got Dr. Ryan Stone, who's played by Sandy Bullock. She's currently on her first shuttle mission, and she's teamed up with Matt Kowalski, played by George Clooney. Now he's on his last flight. But on a seemingly routine spacewalk, disaster strikes. You're talking about space debris that hits the shuttle and completely decimates it. This leaves these two astronauts completely alone, tethered to nothing but each other and spiraling out into the blackness of space. The deafening silence tells them that they have lost any link to Earth and any chance for rescue. As fear turns to panic, every gulp of air eats away at what little oxygen is left. But the only way home may be to go further out into the terrifying expanse of space. Before I go on with my review, I want to remind everybody to stick around for the end of the review, where I will be revealing what the Cinematic Shuffle has decided I review next. So you don't want to miss that, so stick around. And now on to my review of Gravity. There's honestly a lot to love when it comes down to Gravity. Whether you're talking about the visuals, the cinematography, the directing, the sound design, the performances, the narrative, honestly, everything seems to be pieced together in such a beautiful manner. Because on the surface, it's just, it's an exciting space adventure. It's an exciting, space emergency film. But it does go deeper than that, because you have these characters played by Sandra Bullock and George Clooney that both have kind of a bit of depth to them. And you learn this through a lot of dialogue that they have going back and forth between them. But even if you don't really care about character development, which I guess to each their own, most people can absolutely love the graphics that go into this film, which honestly, I didn't know when things were being CGI and when things were being practical, because everything to me looked real. I mean, I could guess that the space debris is fake. I can guess that the planet Earth in the distance is fake. I can guess in general that they're not actually filming this in outer space. But it is so easy to have this suspension of disbelief. It is so easy to actually believe that these two are astronauts in space, even though it is Sandra Bullock, even though it is George Clooney. And yes, they still act like how they normally would act in other films. Sandra Bullock, however, I would say is the standout in this film. Like, she is fantastic. It might actually be her best performance that I've ever seen. But I would argue that the visuals of the film wouldn't work as well as they do without the sound design of the film, which is one of the few films that takes place in space that actually tries to be authentic when it comes down to having no sound in space. That the only things that you hear are through the helmet. So you hear a lot of bassy, clunky things that you might hear outside your helmet if you were wearing a spacesuit. You hear the hiss of the oxygen, you hear little things like that. Where if you actually sit down and you think about the film and you think about all the work that went into just the sound design alone, you would be impressed. The narrative is actually something that I absolutely love, because not only is this just a basic survival film, just get out. It provides the characters with a route in which to do that. In other survival films, it's usually just that, survive in any way necessary. In other survival films like this, typically there is no route. There's just like, I'm just gonna go left and hope for the best. Yeah, it's tense, but it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere specific. This movie always felt like they were going somewhere specific. We have to go to this spot so that we can do this thing in order to maybe survive by doing this next. And it's a terrifying, hands-on-your-mouth thriller to get to point A to point B to point C, but those points are still there, and to me, that's a perfect narrative. Plus, the threat of space alone it's in your face, because you know when watching that anybody could die at any point. Like, it's not gonna be all rainbows and sunshines and puppy dog tails. It's gonna get serious, it's gonna get tense, and it's gonna prove to you that nothing is guaranteed. And I love that about this film. I just think all around, if this was a puzzle piece, if this was a jigsaw puzzle, it would perfectly planned out. That's what this film is, perfectly planned out. I honestly don't have any specifically negative gripes to say about the film. I just have certain things here and there that technically could have been better. Casting, for instance. Sandra Bullock and George Clooney are phenomenal in these roles, but if I ask myself, could anybody else have played these characters? I can't say no. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing about it that screams to me that they were the only people that could play these roles. They played the crap out of them. They did a great job. I will not say they didn't there. I'm not so sure that nobody on Earth couldn't have played the roles as well. So that got like 3 out of 4 stars, for instance. It's little things like that, here and there. There's nothing bad about the movie, nothing whatsoever. It's just little things aren't perfect, and that's about it. So let's take a look at my score. I scored Gravity an A+ letter grade, final overall score of 96%. And honestly, if you can see my unbiased and biased score below, it's 96% across the board, so it's as entertaining as it is well made. Again, very little things to complain about here, very little things that I can't praise. The areas of which I didn't score perfectly in the bias section would probably be rewatchability. I scored that 1 out of 2 possible stars only because, technically speaking, this is the second time that I've watched the movie. I haven't watched it in almost 10 years, which means at the end of the day, I consider it rewatchable, but not something that I want to rewatch immediately after seeing it, and that's why I scored it 1 out of 2. Again, just little things like that. It basically means nothing. It means that the movie is still good. 96% is still an A+. 96% is still phenomenal. This movie is worth the watch. This movie is worth your time. But as promised, let's take a look at what the Cinematic Shuffle has decided I watch next time. The Boondock Saints, yes! It has been forever. Honestly, I feel like truly forever since I saw the Boondock Saints for the first time. Actually, the only time. I've only seen it once. I know that I saw Boondock Saints 2 in theater with the director and one of the actors in it, and I'll talk about that if I ever get around to reviewing the second movie. But the first one I saw at home, and I don't remember what I thought about it. So to make sure that you don't miss out on that review, you know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my review for the Boondock Saints. And until then, guys, peace out.